Hello, everyone, and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where this week we'll be discussing the episodes released on the BBC in the UK from Monday the 20th to Thursday the 23rd of June, 2022. And as you can see, before I go any further, my name is Alex. Hello, hope you're all well. And as you can see, we swapped places again because we just like a bit of variety. And I'm not doing it with Rob this week. I'm doing it with Queen Victoria. Hello, Queen Victoria.
Hello. Hello! I can't keep that out for them. But look at this, viewers and listeners. I have purchased. That is terrifying. Look, the last thing that Archie saw.
Yes.
This is terrifying if you do it close up like that. I had no idea. But I got this from a website online. Saw it. My friends got a pink one or blue one. I think it was a blue one of the two. And I thought, well, that's not the true Queen Victoria colour. So I went online and found this one, which is the closest thing to the actual kind of colour that it is usually.
It's bronzy, isn't it? So that's pretty cool.
Bronzy, coppery. So yeah, my Albert Square memorabilia pile continues to build.
It really does, as you can see on the wall behind you.
I
say, as you can see, if anyone's not watching this, I just have to say that Rob was holding up a replica Queen Vic bust in front of the camera. So if you're listening to this, then you're missed out there because you didn't get to see it. So you can see it on YouTube if you want.
I'm also 6 foot tall with luscious blonde hair and a six-pack.
He certainly is. And in that case, you should certainly tune into YouTube to see that in live action.
And Alex is 28 stone and
true. It's all true. When I sit on this chair, I just makes you look taller. Yeah. Hey, Rob, you know what? You know what the viewers or the listeners should be doing right now? They should be logging in while watching or listening to us and going to BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote. Because you know why? Because
we're up for an award.
We're up for an award. All the awards. We're up for Listener's Choice Award. So I think you go on there, you put our name in, click on it, and then you just vote. So please vote for us.
Do we get to go to an award ceremony?
I think we do, unless they're doing it over Zoom. They might be still social distancing. I'm not sure. Is that still a thing? Never been a thing in EastEnders, has it?
Why was that ever a thing? I don't remember. But yeah, go on. Why not? If everybody who listens on YouTube, at the very least, voted, we might actually have a chance. Alex will stick the link to the vote in the show notes below, because you like sticking stuff in the show notes, don't you?
I do.
And all you need to do is it'll ask you what podcast you want to vote for. Just type in Walford Weekly into the search bar. That'll come up. Click it, and then it's one of those things where it will send you an email just to confirm your vote, and then that's it. We will get our posh frocks on, and we'll go to an awards ceremony, and you will never, ever, ever hear the end of it.
No, you won't. Instead of holding up the Queen Vic bust, we'll be holding up awards. All the awards.
Like you'll let me keep it.
Well, we can share it. It'd be like a child from a divorce. You can have it Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and have it Tuesday, Wednesday.
Just chuck it in, just cut it in half.
Absolutely. That's a much better idea. So yes, BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote, and then do everything that Rob just encouraged you to do. Put our name in, vote, do all that. Don't take 5 seconds. Do it while you're listening to us right now. Pick up your phone, do it. Go on, have a go. And we'll be eternally grateful. However, we're also
grateful.
Eternally grateful, not internally. Although I will be internally
as well. We're all tingly inside.
Yes. But thank you for joining us. As I say, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Podbean or Spotify, thank you very much. You can also watch us on YouTube. Don't forget you can get in touch with us at Walford Weekly on Twitter and Instagram and on our Facebook group. All the details will also be repeated at the end of the show. Right, Rob? Yes. Shall we get on with it then? So shall we talk about the first story of the week, which was the Mitchells having a bit of bother because as their empire grows, someone's not so happy, or a couple of people actually aren't so happy about the growth of the Mitchell web along the square any further. And they've been getting a few attacks.
Yes, now this is actually fairly interesting because I don't actually know who's behind this. It doesn't seem instantly obvious. Now Jonah's name has sort of been kind of floated around, but we haven't really seen Jonah since, apart from when bless him, like a month ago or something. So it might not be Jonah. It might just be some other randomer that Phil's managed to annoy. He has got quite the long list of enemies, haven't they, the Mitchells? So it really could be anybody.
And it seems to be growing as he's in prison as well, because he still does those shifty looks around him, doesn't he? And Sharon's the only one who seems to pick it up.
Well, Sharon knows all about shifty looks.
Yes.
A few weeks ago, though, when we were discussing Phil in prison, we mentioned that it looks like Phil's got an issue with someone in prison. Is Phil being bullied? Is Phil finally starting to realise he's not the most powerful person on earth? And then you laughed in my face and you said, "No, don't be ridiculous. It's far too character-led. They won't do that." However, how wrong you were, Alex. Yes. Because it seems that someone is giving Phil some issues in prison. He's getting a bit nervous. We don't really know the full ins and outs yet. We just sort of had hints that something is going on with Phil in prison. And I have to say, this sounds quite exciting because not only is Phil getting problems in prison, but problems are now being affected all over anything related,
spilling all over the place,
spilling everywhere. And the cab office has had a window put in by a brick, which kind of just flew through the window in the middle of the scene, made me jump. That's quite bad, isn't it? Made me jump. I wasn't expecting it because it was halfway through a line of dialogue. I was like, ah! I love it when that happens. I love it when the show can still shock me. It's lovely. And so not only is that going on, Kat is getting, prank call sounds a little bit light-hearted compared to what it's going to be, seen as though someone's actually saying down the phone that Mitchell's not going to die. It's not really a prank, is it? It's more just poison calling, or whatever they call it, abusive phone calls. And then not only that, both Harvey and Mitch were separately attacked when they were on duty. Now, when I read that Harvey and Mitch were going to be attacked by somebody, I assumed that would be because they were in the same car together, but they weren't. They were on completely opposite sides of London, and they both got attacked at more or less the same time. It
was very orchestrated, wasn't it? Because they were on the phone having a conversation. It was like very planned.
So this is someone who knows what they're doing. I've had one of them for a while.
True, in
organised
many
crime.
aspects. Organised. No shenanigans just yet. I liked when Mitch got the phone call as well, because Mitch kind of pretended that it was like someone who like hung up from ordering a taxi. Do you want a taxi, mate? No, all right then. And then Kat was like, "Who was that?" And then he was like, "No, don't listen, Kat."
No one.
Yeah, bless her. So they're really going. They stolen 2 of Kat's taxis as well. Which I thought was quite funny. So there's now 2 cars missing from the taxi
with superhero names or something written on the back.
Because
they were all for
Super Ray, Bat Ray, Spider Ray.
They'll be
Wonder
hard
Ray.
to find.
That's what I mean. It's like, I guess they haven't phoned the police though, because they don't. I suppose
because
it's not
Mitch
a grassing matter.
No,
they don't.
No,
they don't. So, and they can't rely on Callum any longer to get some insider information because Callum's not.
Because he was so reliable before.
He really was. He always used to kind of resist to begin with, and then he'd kind of be like, "Oh, okay, then I'll find out for you." So he's easily led. But also, Kat was quite afraid of opening the club as well, thinking that it could lead to more trouble, and so they've bulked up the security as well. Sharon's kind of got 2 more people in to kind of like hold things out. But then this is where we led to Shirley, because Shirley's quite upset this week because she found out that Zack had slept with Sam. Sam kind of had a bit of a Sam kind of had a bit of a weird week, didn't she? Kind of just mirandering around the like square.
That's
kind
all
of
Sam's
like
done since she really returned. Let's
I
be fair.
know, it's such a shame.
She's either sat in the club with a cup of coffee and a laptop, started tapping away, fired people, or just wandered around sort of aimlessly. What I have to say, I am quite liking the fact that Sam clearly is quite incapable. I like that because it felt like she was going to come back and be all sort of capable and organised and sort of a natural heir to anything Mitchell related. When in fact she's useless.
She's just as useless as when she left, eh?
Yeah, which I quite like, and the fact that Kat has obviously persuaded Phil to let Sharon take over from the club. Sharon, the first opportunity she got, all Sam had to do was kind of give her a cold cup of coffee, like, "Right, you're sacked, get out, go on, off you go." And now Sharon's having to deal with all this on her own, which in some ways might be a blessing, because for whatever is going on, I think that Sharon is probably more capable of handling it than whatever Sam was going to do.
Oh, entirely. But then I felt like Sharon had no place to kind of criticise Sam for being a little bit useless, because before she decided to take this power role when she broke up with Phil, she became a bit useless herself. She used to stay at home, be a bit doting on Phil, kind of a bit motherly. Like the biggest thing she would do is cook a fish one evening for Phil to then kind of reject and run off somewhere. So, I feel like I'm glad that Sharon stepped up. But at the same time, I feel like Sharon should, remember that, she was once in that place where Sam kind of is now. I mean, I will defend Sam to the hilt because I do love the character of Sam, but I'm just waiting for her to get in gear. Like I was with Janine, I'm just waiting for her to get into gear.
She will. If Janine's anything to go by, then Sam will be in gear shortly. But it's important to remember, I think, and I'm glad that they've started to sort of differentiate between the two now, because it was seeming that Sam was sort of coming in and being a bit Janine all over the place, wasn't it? She
was being Janine,
scheming and bitching around the place and just sort of having that sort of constant antagonistic role. Whereas now she is still doing that, but there is like more a different facet to her character than Janine is. The highlight of the entire week for me was the scene where Shirley came into the laundrette, having discovered that Zack and Sam had done this thing, and like Kat was there, Sharon was there, and Sam was there. Burst in, demanded to speak to the slapper, and Kat, Sam, and Sharon all looked at each other like, "Which one, love? Which one are you after?" Because
it was like that Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, realistically, it could be any of us. I loved that. I thought it was very funny. So yes, because Sam and Zack were discovered this week, which we will discuss later on. Yes. But yeah, just finally on this story, what do you think is actually going on? Where is this going? Like, who is after them? What is going on, Alex? Tell me what's going on.
I don't know, Rob. Why? I really don't know. I mean, there must be someone trying for a power struggle. I mean, again, we'll talk more about Shirley and all those shenanigans in a moment. Yes. But like Shirley's trying to kind of put her oar in as well. She's seen the opportunities to kind of like make things worse for Sharon and Kat and Sam. But I don't know who is out to get them. I mean, as I say, they've not been subtle with like Phil kind of losing friends in prison. But at the same time, Jonah is kind of out there as well. But would Jonah really be that upset about losing one club? Because that's all he lost out on, really, isn't it? Would he really be that territorial?
Well, I mean, gangsters in London, they do this, don't they?
Do they?
Well, I think so. It's not necessarily about, it's more the principle of it with this sort of thing, isn't it? Like, it's sort of like, oh, you've messed with me, so now I'm going to shoot your entire family. That's sort of how sort of gang politics works, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. But the other thing, of course, is, yes, now Shirley has sort of declared war upon the Mitchells because that's all she needed. So bearing in mind that Phil and Shirley haven't spoken not once, since Shirley knocked Phil out in his kitchen and the house fire started in the Mitchells. So I'm fairly sure they have not had a scene together ever since then. So that's never really been addressed.
Well, I'm glad you actually reminded me of that scene, because for the whole week I've been thinking, why is Shirley's beef with Phil? I've not really gotten it. But now I'm kind of reminded that, yeah, she did have that knocking out the Phil beforehand. And she's blaming Phil for Tina as well. Was that a completely different matter?
I think so. It all got very confusing towards the end of that. I can't quite remember. But either way, Shirley didn't need much of an excuse, essentially, to want this to be a full-on blown war. So she's weirdly got Dotty involved with something. Now, she gave Dotty an envelope full of money. It was a very small envelope, and I'm not quite entirely surprised that Dotty turned her nose up at it. Like, what the hell's this? I can't buy a takeaway in London for this. What are you doing, Shirley, love? And all Shirley wants is for the opening of the club next week is for the security cameras to be turned off for a bit. So what Shirley's planning, I don't know. I suspect it's going to be slightly more innocent than we are being led to believe.
I do too, and I think that actually her silliness of getting the cameras switched off will actually end up being a bigger incident because of it. So I think that her having the camera switched off will be, as you say, a very kind of small thing for Shirley, but then that would lead to someone else doing a much larger thing within the club.
It's nice for them to be dealing with the CCTV this early on in the story.
I know.
That removes that issue straight away. Well done.
At least they there is CCTV in the club, so you can't be too angry at them for that one.
There you go. One more thing before we move on is that I have to say I prefer Sharon here than I do the gym. I feel like it suits her more. And I feel like it's a lot less likely with Sharon in charge to be called Peggy so much longer. Because I think Sharon is the first person who would turn around and say that's a rubbish name for a club. And if you
but she's named a drink Peggy.
She named a drink
Peggy to appease Sam.
Yeah, that's fine. Have the drink named after Peggy. Do that. You cannot name an entire wine bar after Peggy.
No,
Peggy would. It's just like she would hate an opposing business to the Vic to be called Peggy's. I don't care. Peggy would hate that because Peggy's life and soul was that pub. She loved her family less than that pub. So
maybe this is all being caused by Peggy's ghost. Maybe Peggy has organised all this to happen to stop the opening of the club, and so it's going to be Peggy that comes in because they do like bringing Peggy back. I know from the dead every now and then, and kind of
all the
voices.
Awards, right? Voters for an award.
We put objects in front of things, and we have a calendar. But yes. But do you have any theories? Do you have any theories about what could happen ahead?
Let us know. Oh, me. I thought we were talking to the viewers.
I'm talking to you.
Fair enough. Something's going on. I just have a feeling that it's going to be slightly more than Jonah, just because we haven't had Jonah mentioned a lot. Normally, if a gangster is sort of giving somebody on the square problems, then they tend to be sort of floating around in the background, watching them from a distance. But we've only seen Jonah a couple of times. Mm-hmm. So I think, because I don't think it was necessarily made clear that whatever is going on with Phil in prison has necessarily got anything to do with Jonah. I feel like there's something else I think there's something else going on that was going to be revealed next week. That's my thinking.
I think it's what you said earlier, which is something's happened in the prison and it's going to spill out from the prison rather than something
Phil's
happening outside.
Not quite told the truth about yet. You know, exactly. I think he's kind of keeping a few things to himself, probably
he's keeping secrets
because he's not top dog. He's a bit embarrassed by that, so he's trying to sort everything else out in prison, not realizing quite how serious stuff is getting on the outside because of his own actions.
But imagine him if he's not top dog in prison, he's going to be hell, isn't he, when he gets out? He's going to be like a child that doesn't get their toy, isn't he? When he gets out of prison,
he's going to be ripped off the wall the second he comes out. Yeah, chasing the postman down the road. You're late, sir!
Second post isn't the right time. But anyway, as you quite rightly pointed out, I would love to know what the listeners or the viewers think as well. So get down below, comment below, or get in touch with us and let us know, what do you think is going to happen next week with this story? Right, so the next story then is Nancy's story. Yes, it's a subject to talk about. It's Nancy's story and how she's left the square with no fanfare, no announcements whatsoever, because she feels like she needs to make her own way and she's done helping everyone, including Zack and Linda. I mean, we kind of got an inkling of that last week, didn't we, when she walked into Linda's hospital ward and said, like, I went online, found this online, therapy group, and they said I should just forget about you.
Now we did receive a comment on YouTube. Didn't we? Now we always live to be corrected. We have no issues ever about if we say something that's wrong or use something that you feel that we perhaps haven't fully covered in terms of its truth, then please always do let us know because we appreciate it. And apparently. Because we were slightly disparaging, shall we say, about the potential advice that this support group was giving Nancy about just sort of walking away from Linda and leaving her to it. And apparently, the comment said that actually this is fairly kind of common for support groups to sign and say you need to just give her time to get herself together. Sometimes you need to help yourself. So fair enough. So thank you for the comment. I can't remember who sent it. My apologies. But thank you very much for sending us those comments. We always welcome them.
We do, and we always read every single one of them as well. So don't think we don't see what you guys have written.
We see you. We see you.
But no, they're absolutely right. But Nancy kind of gave Linda a second chance when she came home, but instantly spotted the bottle of that vodka, and that was almost like a light bulb moment to her to think, like, you know what, I'm giving Zack a second chance, and I've given him, this is probably the third or fourth chance. I can't keep giving people extra chances. I need to think about myself. I need to help myself by leaving, because obviously, as we've already mentioned, Zack had slept with Sam last week. She found out from that very bizarre package sent message that came 5 hours after it got sent.
Can we discuss this? Because I mentioned this on the Facebook thing, and on the Facebook group, and your partner ridiculed me because I apparently it seemed very odd to me. I've never known. I know occasionally. In fact, Queen Victoria today, when she arrived, the delivery man took a photo of the package on the doorstep, and I kind of stood aside. Bearing in mind, what I didn't do was stand in the doorway in my all together and just sort of pose and look down the street as the delivery man was taking the photo. And what also didn't happen was that the delivery man didn't then send me that photo to confirm to me that I had the delivery that I was holding in my hands. That didn't happen either. To be fair, deliveries do send. I've got confirmation photos before, but as you say, but I've been aware that they've taken the photograph. I've not, but the way Sam was reacting, Sam didn't know that he was there. It was me.
She was there.
Sort of hiding in a bush. Zack's topless. Take a photo.
Click. Yeah. So it was really, really weird and random. So I quite liked it as a bit of a surprise kind of reveal. But at the same time, it wasn't quite right. It didn't quite work.
To be fair, what I will say is I applaud that scene in the fact that that's not a sort of reveal that we've had before. It was quite a sort of original way of doing it. And the whole thing of Nancy sending him a car, it was a little bit convoluted. Let's not pretend otherwise. But it was a nice sort of attempt to kind of do a classic sort of everyone suddenly finds out all at once in the most humiliating way possible. a bit differently. To be fair, this car that Nancy sent Zack, she was worried that this might come across as a tiny bit patronising. And frankly, I would agree with her. He sold his car that we know is Zack's pride and joy to try and sort of make up for this money that they've lost, which I don't think is ever going to get mentioned again, by the way, because Nancy doesn't seem that bothered and she's just gone off 50 grand less. But
I was about to say, yeah, it left with Nancy and shit, I'm afraid.
And her idea was to send him a toy car. If I had done that and someone had sent me that as a sort of response, having had a go at me and had an argument with me, I'd have been like, you petty, patronising cow. I'm going to please.
I'm going to sleep with Sam Mitchell.
In fact, do you know what, Sam? Get back inside. We're doing it again. Rip my shirt open again. I'll put it back on.
Oh, I thought it was a lovely gift. I thought it was really nice that it was her kind of way of saying I'm sorry as well, because she had to go at everyone and everything. I mean, she obviously has Amazon Prime, so she kind of got it the next, like that same day, because in London you get it the same day if you're on Amazon Prime. Lucky Londoners, you lucky lot.
Didn't go to Cat's little delivery thing though, did it? Didn't go to the little Amazon locker thing.
Didn't go to the Cat's locker.
Living proof that locker makes absolutely no sense, because I spoke to you about this when they first revealed it, and I said, "What's going on here, Alex? What is the point?" Kathy came and got a book that she'd ordered when she literally lives across the road from the laundrette. So why didn't it just go to her?
I don't know. Why did it just?
And you were like, "Well, actually, Robert, they're called Amazon lockers, and I approve because they're a great British venture." Clearly, that's not everyone does that, but anyway.
No.
So yes, the whole square now knows. The whole square now knows. Nancy knows. Mick knows. Mick's fuming. Shirley punches him.
Yeah.
And yeah, Zack's in the doghouse now, basically, and spends the next episode or so basically just trying grovelling to Nancy.
Well, asks her to marry him.
Well, yeah. I mean, is that the correct response to do? Crap,
not really.
Cheating. So I'm now going to propose to you in the middle of the street.
It was a desperate measure.
Yes.
It was a desperate measure, wasn't it? But I think it was from a desperate man, because he had that little heart-to-heart with Martin, and he said, you know, if it was any other girl, I wouldn't care, I wouldn't bother, but Nancy's the one. And then Martin kind of encouraged him to do it, and then once he did it, Martin then told him it was a stupid thing to do in the gym scene.
But then also sort of confessed to, I had a crush on Sam when I was a kid, so do you know what, lad, fair play, which, you know.
I think a lot of young lads did, to be fair. She was a model.
She was a model. She was a looker, and still is.
She was. She certainly is.
So that's all gone on. So basically, Zack and Nancy have, now officially broken up, and Nancy has moved on. Now, a couple of questions. The bottle of vodka that she found on Linda's head, which no wonder she was uncomfortable, because she was trying to get herself comfortable with a bottle of vodka sticking up in the back of her head. I mean, it's not exactly Princess and the Pea, is it?
No,
you know,
it's not at all. The alcoholic and the vodka.
Do you believe that she was that? Because Linda sort of was kind of just like, oh no, I didn't know it was there. I'm sorry. Like I was getting rid of it because it was full. It wasn't like one of her half drunk ones.
No, she
before,
knew
like the one that was in the glove compartment. So what do you think? She was lying that she was going to drink it?
She was lying.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, she was lying. She was lying. Although I do think that since then she's not had any, because when she had that kind of spike of anger when she was talking to, because when she was kind of convinced Nancy not to go, and she was kind of all wallowing and kind of like, oh, but you can't leave, I need you, and this and the other. And then as soon as Nancy brought up the idea of not Nancy going with her, with Annie going with her, she then, and that was clearly a reaction that kind of an alcoholic would have, because they're kind of their body levels not, you know, if you've had a few drinks the night before and the next day you're sometimes all over the place, aren't you? Yeah, exactly.
You've seen me hungover, Alex. I am murderous and I'm not a nice person. So I tell you what though, that scene where sort of all the Carters in the pub, you know, Linda's going crazy and everyone like Mick's trying to step in, that scene kind of made me a bit sad, because the Carters have seen Nancy's now gone, Mick's soon to go. And it's sort of going to be a bit sad that we're losing. Essentially, I know some of them are staying, and we didn't know Nancy was leaving at that point, to be fair. But it just sort of feels like, that's a family that's just sort of gone now. That's a shame, isn't it? We've got like a few more months of Mick and Linda left, and then the Carters, as we knew them, have done basically, which is a real shame.
I feel like the Carters that we knew them died the day that Linda slept with Max, personally. But I know what you're saying, because they're all kind of dispersing and they're all kind of going their own way. And unless they can bring more back in again. I mean, it makes me wonder whether, because we know that Mick is leaving. It's not a spoiler. We know that Mick is leaving. And rumours are that it's going to be Christmas period. So that seems about right.
That's a cheery storyline that's coming on.
I know.
Ho, ho.
Well, we won't discuss it just yet, but there's obviously a few things have come out about it. Do you think that Lee or, you know, any of the other characters might come back for it?
I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Strike even decides to come back for a couple of episodes, just to sort of tie a nice little ribbon on the whole sort of Carter era. I think
they need to do that.
I think he'd do that, because I'm fairly sure there were some photos going around at one point of some of the Carters, like on a bit of I'm assuming a leaving party or a leaving meal, and Sam Strike was there. Now, he could have just been like, oh, come and get drunk. All right, I'm on my way. They could have been just as nice as that. But I think the conversation at least would have been, "How go on, come back for a couple of episodes just so we can all kind of leave together." That'd be nice, wouldn't it? I wouldn't be surprised, and I think that would be great as well, just to sort of have Johnny there, just so we know that he's there and that he still exists. And I don't believe that Sam Strike would ever come back full time.
No,
but because he's busy doing stuff now, good for him. But it would be nice for him to sort of just return, just to kind of finish off that era and all be very nice. So yeah, Nancy's gone. That's a shame. I'm going to miss her.
Yeah, so am I. A tremendous actress as well. I mean, I'm presuming that she'd always planned, because it's pretty much been a year. So I imagine that she's always planned it just to be for this long, and clearly wasn't convinced to stay any longer. Yeah, I know. Like you say, they're kind of depleting. They're all kind of trickling away. I was actually watching EastEnders and felt a bit sorry for Shirley this week, or the character Shirley, because like when Heather died, Shirley kind of was left wondering, wasn't she? Then her family got introduced to Carters, and then that gave Shirley a purpose. And now it seems like they're going. It feels like what's Shirley left to do other than kind of pay Dotty money to turn off security cameras just to kind of wind up Sharon? You know what I mean?
It doesn't sound like Shirley's life is going to improve massively over the next few months, does it?
No.
So,
but she's a roller coaster, isn't she, old Shirley, as well? Like she's shouting one minute, crying the next. Like in one episode, she was crying to Nancy, then she was shouting at Sharon, then she was making deals with Dotty and being sneaky. Like she's a right roller coaster old queen. She is, isn't she? The
only thing we're missing was the typical Shirley getting drunk on vodka thing. We didn't have that, because that's normally an extra. I mean, a layer of Shirley that we.
I think it's implied today. Now, to be fair, it's implied.
Of course that's going on. Of course that's going on. Like, they had a cup of tea when they woke up. Of course Shirley's drunk.
Of course. They don't need to write it in anymore. No, it's just known. It's just part
we know that. It's fine. Yeah, there we are then. So what's going to happen now with Zack, do you think? So are he and Sam going to be kind of pulled back together or not? Or do you reckon that Sam just had her time?
I think Sam's had her time. She's
why would you, when you rip that shirt open, why would you then decide, well, I'm not going back there again? Even if he was the lousiest lane that she's ever had in her entire life, would you not just keep it for the shirt ripping?
Just symbolic shirt ripping. I think it's more Zack doesn't want to get back together with Sam, though, to be honest with you. And if they were to get together, I think it wouldn't feel quite right. I don't think Sam's the kind of personality that Zack would go for, because Zack's quite a sweet guy, really, isn't he? He's quite simple with his needs, and no, I don't think he'd go with Frankie either. Do you think?
Oh, Frankie would. Well,
I don't think Frankie would. Anyone would. You
quite
would.
Right. I would.
Perhaps you should be introduced into the show. What character would you be?
What you like. I'm available. I'll wear a wig. We don't need to change that sexuality. I'll put a wig on. That's absolutely fine.
Oh no! But one last thing then. What do we think Linda's what's going to happen to Linda now? Because Janine's got her feet right under the table in the Vic.
Oh, hasn't she just? Actually, I was thinking about this week. Actually, if you think about it, Janine has done exactly what Janine should have done, but she's just done it quite subtly, and now we're just sort of seeing the results, because Janine has completely destroyed that family.
Yeah,
hasn't she?
Two of them apart.
If you think about it, everything that's happened to the Carters in the past year or so has been not purely, but 90% thanks to Janine. She was the one that went to see Linda and sort of. I know Linda was going to drink at that.
She was on the cusp.
She didn't need that much encouragement, but Janine sort of gently pushed her over the edge, didn't she? So she was responsible for that. She was responsible basically for Zack and Nancy breaking up, because the stress of losing the 50 grand basically tore them apart. So she's responsible for that. So now that Nancy's gone, that's Janine's fault. Linda's now an alcoholic again. That's basically Janine's fault. I like the fact that Nancy for about half an episode, for about 10 minutes, was kind of like, I'll take Annie with me, and then realised, baby,
that's a bit silly.
Screw that. Where am I going to put her? So, yeah, I think Janine is, she's got a lot of comeuppance coming her way, if they do it right, because she's actually responsible pretty much for disintegrating the Carters at this point. So...
And then Linda and Sharon have kind of agreed that they can't really expose what they know about Janine either. So this secret's there, but they can't do anything about it because Janine's got too much on them back. So yeah, it's pretty good. Well done.
She's done nothing.
Slow burner Janine. Well done.
That's my girl. There you go.
So coming up now is a Chelsea story, and she has had a bit of bother with Jordan, a bit of a shock, actually, a bit of a horrible moment where Jordan got very, very ill and unwell, and Rob is clearly upset by this whole occasion. But she hadn't. We've learned that she hadn't had a child vaxxed. She hadn't had a
well, no. It's not necessarily that she's anti-vax, is it? She remember what she said was she was quite concerned about the fact that obviously Jordan went through quite a lot in quite a short amount of time that he was alive, since he was born rather, being born early and everything. So she kind of thought, right, well, I'll leave off on the needles and prodding and poking for a little while until he's a little bit older.
Yeah. But surely a doctor should have. No, a doctor should have advised her to say, really, being a premature child, he needed them probably more than.
Well, yeah. But
Dr. Alex here.
Yeah, clearly.
My MD.
I'm assuming that's kind of up to the parents more than they can't exactly force the kid to have them, can they? So that's probably what happened there.
Though they should.
Yes, because she gets a phone call. They should always just ask you, shouldn't they? And Dr. Alex knows all. She went to work. She's now working back at the club. Sharon sort of employed her, desperately trying to keep on Chelsea's employment, by the way.
Well, she's trying to keep on with anyone to work.
Do whatever hours you like. I don't mind. Just come in, please.
Set up a baby monitor as well with Denise. Yeah. Made a little plan. You saw Whitney kind of dancing to the music with Jordan. Everything was fine. Everything was great.
Yeah, and then it all just went. Yeah. Ironic now that there's now effectively CCTV within Gray's house now. Like, where was all this? We could have done with this months ago.
You always had that Ring doorbell. Rest in peace, Ring doorbell.
So she gets a phone call from Whitney. Apparently Jordan's developed this rash. Whitney said, "I did the test. I did the glass test, which is when you hold a glass not onto the baby's arm, but anyone's arm on the skin and." Was it if you can't see it, then that's a bad thing.
If it doesn't disappear,
you can see it. Yeah,
if you can still see it, because when you've got a rash, if you push it down, it goes white. It kind of disappears because you're stretching the skin, I suppose. But yes, with meningitis, it doesn't. MD.
And apparently, also whatever Jordan's got, it doesn't either. Because if it's not meningitis, he's just got like an allergy or something. They said, didn't they? But it was just like those extra 2 minutes of drama. Jordan might have meningitis. Oh no, he doesn't. It's fine.
Yeah, and also quite rightly so. It kind of spread around the square because obviously there's Roland as well who could have maybe caught it. There's Sharon's kid who could have caught it. There's a lot of young children on the square, and they didn't. And I felt like that they didn't kind of open it up to that kind of panic because I would like to have seen that, like the panic that would have ensued around the square where they found out. that, baby Jordan had been sick.
The thing that EastEnders needs now more than anything is a pandemic storyline. I completely agree. That's
it's about time.
We had no representation at all. But effectively, Jordan's okay, isn't he? I think what it was more designed to do this story was sort of just install panic in Chelsea, because now I think what this might be leading to is the fact that Chelsea's now going to become almost overly clingy with Jordan. I'm getting that sense. She's sort
protective,
of yeah, because there was a scene towards the end of the week where she was getting quite snappy with Whitney, because Whitney was kind of like, well, it's okay. Clearly you need to work, because otherwise we're not going to be able to live in this house for very much longer. When Whitney is the sensible one, you've got problems. Bless her. But when Whitney is the voice of reason, because I don't know what, and to be fair, I don't know what Whitney's doing. Whitney is sort of still selling her clothes on a market. She must earn no more than on a good day, about 200 quid a day. That apparently is keeping everything in this house going. Well, exactly. So Whitney could go out and get a job. There is that possibility. But no, Chelsea needs to sort of provide for Jordan, obviously. But now Chelsea's sort of saying, well, I'm going to do less hours at the club. Because obviously Jordan needs me, because I went out for 10 minutes and Jordan had an allergic reaction. So clearly I can never leave Jordan alone now, which you can sort of understand, but
because their plan now is that Jordan's staying in the Crèche, which is Sharon's office at the club, which Sharon's not very happy about. So it's not only that, I think that Chelsea's kind of like overprotectiveness of Jordan, which seems reasonable, is kind of then offloading itself on the fact that they can't afford to keep number one Albert Square anymore. And it kind of brings me back round again to are they going to leave? Is there a new family coming in? Is, that kind of, talk up in the open all over again. You know what I mean? So, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because, as you said, Whitney works on the store when she wants to and makes, I can't imagine a lot of money. She was pennies. I mean, Whitney could earn a little bit extra money, maybe singing in the club in the evening, maybe because it is going to be a classy cocktail bar.
It is summer again. Joe, it's been a year since that started. Summer. We're in the summer. We're in the summer now. I think it started around this time last year, didn't it? And then that brief period where Whitney was going to be an international pop star sort of faded away. Yes, so I mean that's basically it for this story. Is the fact that Chelsea's now becoming quite overprotective over Jordan, and Sharon is that desperate for staff that she's allowing her office to be turned into a creche. Fair enough. You totally get it, don't you? It's fair play.
So, keeping with the subject of babies, then Rainie has lost little Roland.
This was quite heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking. That moment at the door when she was screaming at Karen, "Give me back my baby!" Oh, my heart broke. Oh my goodness me! What is Stuart playing at? I mean, bless him. He's also having a bit of a turn, isn't he?
Yes,
he's really broken, isn't he?
I have to say, this storyline this week was another example. I felt it, like I said earlier, I felt it sort of during the Carter scenes. And I felt it this week as well when Stuart was sort of going mad in the marketplace, where it's like, I mean, I'm sure Clennis has his reasons, and I'm sure Clennis has a plan, and I'm not dissing that for a second, because we don't know really, what's to come, and, the vision that Clennis has got. But it's sort of like, that's a really strong character we're losing now, isn't it? That seems a real shame. I know Stuart is a tricky character sometimes because he's sort of a massive contradiction to be. He's one of those characters. If you sit and think about him a bit too hard, he sort of starts to fall apart a little bit, doesn't he? And so maybe that's got something to do with why Clennis has sort of come in and go, yeah, I think you're done. I think you're done. But Ricky Champ's a really strong actor, and I think that really showed this week when he was going mad in the market. And it was a really powerful scene, actually, because, Rainie was kind of sat there with Karen and Bernie, desperately trying to convince them, he's all right. He's perfectly sane and valid. He has to have a bad day. We all have them. And Stuart's like trying to throw a muffin down Billy's throat or something in the marketplace, about to trash the place. And it just kind of made me I'm sad Stuart's going, because that was a really strong scene. And I really like this sort of unit that they've got with Stuart and Rainie. But now Bernie is based, and Bernie took one look at that. Well, if you think you're having this baby back, you can think again. Lady.
I'm calling the social.
Yes. So what's going to happen with baby Roland then? Is he going to go to the social, or is Bernie going to end up keeping him?
I mean, no, because Bernie showed no interest whatsoever, and it almost was persuasion from Karen to kind of like have her in the flat in the first place. And I think Karen kind of felt a bit put out as well, because I think she almost felt like she was kind of convincing Bernie that actually she should keep the baby. And then Rainie came along and then almost convinced Bernie to go back the other way. Poor Bernie's getting pulled from one side to the other. Over this,
I feel sorry for Roland.
I mean, baby Roland as well.
It's such a cute baby. And I
doesn't he look like Stuart?
I'm a sucker. Well, yeah. I'm a sucker for a smiling baby, honestly. And Roland's got the most cute, beautiful little smile, hasn't he? And bless him, he sat there trying to impress, trying to smile and look all cute. And he's got about 3 different people saying, I don't want you. I don't want this baby. Why is it in my flat? Get rid of it. I felt
a bit sorry for Rainie also, because Stuart kind of threw in Rainie's face this week the fact that biologically Roland has got nothing to do with her. Yeah. He is biologically his, so he ultimately gets to make the decision of what happens, and that decision became that he gave the baby back to Bernie. I mean, that's again, obviously mental illness with Stuart is really hard. It's hitting him. It's this trigger that's kind of caused him. This baby has kind of triggered him. I wonder what exactly it is with Roland that's kind of triggered it. Like, has it brought back memories of him as a child? Vi keeps bringing it up as well this week, that like he had a very hard time when he was young. His father was awful to him. He kind of took a lot of the brunt of his dad's anger. And so I don't know if that's what kind of caused this eruption to happen with Stuart. And it's not just postnatal, it's also that is there a jealousy of Roland that he's in this environment, and because Stuart felt like that this environment was so safe, he self-sabotaged himself and kind of destroyed it around him, so then he wouldn't then have to be responsible to take care of poor old Roland.
Yeah, maybe, but there's a lot of hearts being broken over this storyline, basically, isn't there? And Rainie, God love her, bless her. I mean, I really feel for her. She is absolutely beside herself about this, and understandably, because Rainie, they have battled so much to get this baby. There's been a long old saga. The sort of the highways getting their baby. And now it's finally here. It's just going to be taken away from because Stuart apparently has changed his mind. Now, obviously, there's more to it than that. And the interesting thing, and almost the ultra sad thing about it, is that nobody is really sort of looking at Stuart and going, "Why are you feeling like this? Like, what exactly is going on?"
Yes,
is it just
no
the
one seems to be
chemo, or is
asking
it, or is apart from Sonia, who has sort of turned up, Sonia, who has every leaflet you could ever possibly imagine in her bag.
It's catalogued. It's actually alphabetical in her bag. Yes, she is.
Yeah. She's got like a little filing cabinet just next to her mascara.
Right. A, B, C, D, depression. Here you go, Stuart. Yeah.
I kind of thought that Sonia was going to kind of just realise exactly what was going on, but she didn't really, did she? She sort of just looked at Stuart and sort of like assumed it was the cancer, like everybody else is doing. I do think that Sonia is going to be the one to sort of cotton on eventually, because they've sort of made a point of kind of keeping Sonia around for any type of Stuart sort of breakdown, because if you remember, Stuart basically attacked Sonia in his kitchen one time, and she even came close to the idea of what was going on with him. So I think that maybe Sonia might become a little bit more involved in this, which I'd like to see, because Sonia doesn't get a huge amount to do these days.
She's the queen of the NHS.
She is the queen of the NHS, and long may she reign. But yeah, this was sad. That's all I can really say.
It was sad.
There were some great performances, and it was really sad.
It's right. I mean, I feel bad for Stuart entirely, because obviously this is really hard for him. And I think a lot of people have said it's a breakdown. I don't think they've kind of associated it through Roland just yet, like you say, with the cancer. But it's Rainie. Rainie is the one who really upsets me. It's like, Rainie's been through so much, and it begs belief that she hasn't started drugs or alcohol over this whole thing. Like,
well, is that next, do you think? As soon as it starts getting worse, and
not.
Stuart and Rainie, because I mean, Stuart and Rainie are on the rocks. Stuart and Rainie aren't going to be together for much longer. So is Rainie due a little fall off the wagon?
I wonder if her and Linda will have a scene together, because they both have a history of Max. If you're going to loosely connect them somehow,
a two-hander, please. When Linda's pissed as a farce on the floor, and Rainie's off her boobs on.
I was going to say they'll just
problems. So I would love that, yes, please.
They'll just turn Sharon's house into like a drug den, like they did with old Rainie and Phil in the past. So that's what they'll end up doing. But I would like to see that. I'd like to see a conversation between Rainie and Linda, because they're both kind of at their low
in common as well, of course, haven't they?
Yes, they have that as well.
Yeah.
So they're really, Rainie and Linda have had quite a parallel history leading up to this point. So actually, I think it's deserved.
Two characters. Who just it?
Complete opposite, but yet somehow the same. But yes, I look forward to seeing more of this story.
Rainie's got Vi, Linda's got Shirley.
Hardly a comparison. I mean, I suppose they both shout, so it doesn't really matter.
Will you? Vi barely shouted at all this week. She was quite soft and caring.
She did her.
She was lovely, Nanny Vi. Yes.
She was Nanny Vi. She was beautiful.
Did her
beautiful
thing.
Vi. She did. It was nice to see her outside as well. You very rarely see outside in the wild. Old Vi.
She's always didn't they?
No, they never. They did. You always see her even in the cafe or in the flat.
Makes her way towards the market.
Where the great Stuart Ape is throwing his cupcakes.
It's going mad. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so the next step of this, obviously Bernie was kind of like, right, recording the social. So yeah, Bernie's not really. Do you think Karen is going to sort of trying to cling on to Roland, or is baby? Yeah, because obviously she is still, she's going to be trying to process everything that went on with Chantel, and a new baby coming into the mix could be just what she feels that she needs.
Yeah.
So is that now going to turn more? Is Roland now going to? Because I think it'll reach a point fairly soon where Rainie has sort of accepted that she and Roland are not meant to be. So is that now just going to move on to the Taylors and Bernie and Karen sort of having an interplay about the baby?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I really do hope Rainie ends up with a kid. I'll be honest. I think as a single mum, Rainie's really perfectly stepped capable. Up and absolutely. And I'd be quite happy if it's like just a kind of, because obviously Stuart not being about is just Rainie and Rainie. Can you imagine the family unit? Rainie, Vi, and old Callum up in the flat together, living in one unit, looking after a baby. So it's like the plot of a sitcom, actually.
And Roland would be the most capable out of all four of them.
And he certainly would. Yes. So the final story this week, then we're going to talk about is Kheerat and Stacey and their sexy times, because there can't be a week now on EastEnders where someone's not having some kind of intimacy. We had lots of it last week. We had a bit of it the week before, and this week it was Stacey and Kheerat's turn, and it was back at the old Slater household.
Well, we saw the back end, didn't we?
We did see not the right back end though.
Nothing that went on in the house. No, shallow podcast, very shallow podcast.
Yeah. All the awards. Vote for us.
All the awards. Quality, right? This is quite. I have to say, I ship this a lot. This relationship, I really like Stacey and Kheerat together. I think they've got nice chemistry. My one question would be though, can you see realistically Kheerat wanting to take on all of sort of the Slater brood? Like Lily, Hope, and Arthur. Can you imagine Kheerat wanting to step into that role?
I mean, I don't think Kheerat would probably moan so much as Suki would probably have a bit of a thing. Because we talked about this last week, whether Suki has an issue with it. Because she kind of knows what's going on, but kind of stepping back and allowing it to happen. But as you're right, this ready-made Slater family that Stacey has, is that really something that... style? Yes. Is it so much? Although he likes to be responsible, doesn't he? He likes to kind of take control of things. Because that might be something else as well that he kind of feels like... Because he's happy to kind of like take control of this relationship with Stacey as well, isn't he? Because he seems to be making all the moves.
Yes, lucky Stacey, Alex? Lucky Stacey.
I'm well jealous.
I mean, I think that Kheerat's the sort that would kind of like quite soon, as soon as they want to get a relationship, I think he'd like start looking after Stacey's kids for a bit. So right, when we have one of our own, and Stacey could like laugh. I've got 3. I'll go already, mate. So have you seen my kids? For Christ's sake, you think I want another one on the brood? I think that's going to be interesting moving forward because obviously, you've always got to think about, when a new relationship starts, especially quite reasonably, the pair of them are still young. So, they are of childbearing years, shall we say. So I'm kind of intrigued as to if there is a huge future for them, or obviously they're in the honeymoon phase at the moment, where they have sex absolutely anywhere, whether that be in a chippy van or in an old abandoned house at the back of the street.
The old Slaters.
I'm intrigued to see this, but I have to say at the moment I'm enjoying them. I think they're a nice couple, and I like this sort of sneakiness that they've got going on. It's bringing a bit of spark to Stacey because we're not seeing naughty Stacey for a while. So it's nice to see that. And I hope that Stacey gets quite involved with whatever's coming on the horizon for the Pamasars as well, because there was a nice sort. I remember when quite soon after Jags died, there was a nice scene between Suki and Stacey. So they don't. Those two sort of made peace with each other, I think, around that time. So it'd be interesting to see if Stacey can sort of whether Suki would accept Stacey, because let's be honest, she's accepted Dotty. And if she'll accept Dotty, then she'll accept anybody. So,
but Dottie's really kind of shown her kind of like she's herself. She's not trying to play up an act around Suki, isn't she? So that's why Suki, So I think that's why they kind of get along. I mean, Stacey doesn't want to keep it a secret, though, does she? She was kind of like, well, why do you want to
be out in the open?
Why do you want to keep us as a secret from people? Why? What? And I mean, Kheerat kind of said, "Oh, because I'm having fun at the moment." And I think that's what we should do to begin. We should be in the fun part of relationship. So I wonder how long also Stacey will be happy just kind of be, that kind of thing that he visits every now and then, if to put finer point on
Friends with benefits, I believe
that's the term.
That's the one you were looking for. That's the one you were looking for, you filthy-minded devil. Right, so that was the week in Walford. Quite a good week. Quite enjoyed it. Not the biggest ever week, but I think it was nice. I'm going to miss Nancy. Made me sad about some of the exits that we've got coming up. But it's also kind of got me excited for a little bit for the future because it seems that stuff's starting in places, sort of stuff's bubbling away. We'll see what happens next week. Do let us know in the comment section below what you thought of all this week and what your thoughts are on any of the storylines that we have discussed. We've got one more thing to discuss now.
Yes.
You know me, I ain't one to gossip.
So, as Rob quite rightly said before I crashed his link, this is I Don't Want to Gossip. He certainly did. This is I Don't Want to Gossip. And this is when...
If that's not award worthy, I don't know what is.
All the awards. Link at the bottom. Don't forget to vote for us. We're talking about the news that came up this week, which was that box sets. We last week we kind of touched on it. We said, I wonder if they'll do box sets again. And as if they heard us, they then released a press release. And they are doing from Monday. So if you're listening to this it's released on Saturday, 2 days time on Monday, I think it's 6 a.m. Every single episode of EastEnders will be released on BBC iPlayer for you to watch in an almighty binge for 2 hours as you wake up in the morning. Some people are, some people will. Some people seem to like it, some people don't. I asked you guys to let us know your comments, and you did get in touch with us, and I'll read some of them out in a moment. But Rob, other than obviously the fact that we do say that, like, you know, it's nice to have the box sets because it means we can record a bit earlier. It helps us along a little bit. But in the grand scheme of things, is this a signal? We said this last year. Is this a signal that things are a changing and that we are, because this is much longer than they did last year. Last year was only for 3 weeks. This year they're doing it for 2 months.
8 weeks.
Yes.
8 weeks this is happening for. It's a very long time. It's a very, very long time to do it for. I mean, you can see that logic. There's a lot of sport coming up this year, which, will I be watching a second of it? I think not. But it's arguably it's to keep sort of a bit of structure to EastEnders. The normal episodes are, of course, going to be airing, as we discussed last week before this was even announced. The normal episodes are going to be on BBC Two at more or less their normal times. I think I did check the schedule. I think there's a couple of 8 o'clock airings happening as well. So it's either 7:30 or 8 p.m. So have a look at your schedules. If you're planning on watching it not in the normal way, it'll be on BBC Two around the same time. So check your schedules. But yeah, 8 weeks is a very long time. And of course, what it always does when you, it sort of runs the risk of stuff getting spoiled for people who don't want to watch it.
That's the problem, isn't it?
One go. So yeah, that's a shame for some people. I mean, whether we like it or not, this is the future of television. You know, so Hollyoaks has been doing this for quite a few months on a permanent basis. I think they drop their episodes fairly now once a week at the start of the week, and that's their episodes, as well as airing it on E4 and as well as airing it on Channel.
Oh, really? I didn't know they did that. So. They put them on all
Correct
4
me if
before.
I'm wrong, listeners. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, but I'm pretty sure that is what's happening with Hollyoaks now. So it is the future, and it's something we need to get used to. Now, the problem is that this coincide really with the structure of soap, because you're meant to be kind of watching soaps every single day. So soaps now going to have to start of, because it sort of makes the duff pointless in a way, doesn't it? Because
really
you
does.
You know, it's a bit like watching Netflix. I mean, yeah, Netflix episodes do have cliffhangers at the end of them, but they're kind of assured that the viewers will be finding out the climax, the question, you know, the answers to said cliffhanger in about 30 seconds when the next episode starts.
When it says skip intro and you're going straight into the next episode.
So yeah, I never skip the intro. I always love the intro. I love
do
the
you?
Intro.
You're an intro man.
Always. Oh, I am an intro man. That's shallow podcast. Very shallow podcast. All the
Vote.
Vote. But yeah, so that's happening. I mean, it makes our lives easier. We said this a lot last year, that it was really easy for us to just watch it and basically record whatever we like. So that's nice if they're doing it for us. Thank you very much.
Very casual.
But they're trying to keep EastEnders basically out of the way of the sport and sort of keeping it. Personally, I don't know why the sport can't just go on BBC Two. That's my view. And sort of keep. But that's because I don't care about sports. So as far as I'm concerned, they can stick it on Talk TV for all I care. It can go there. But,
don't give them no. Can you imagine the coverage Talk TV would give?
We beat them. You do. Vote for us. We beat Talk TV. I mean, what do you think? Are we just old and shouting at clouds? Is that the problem with this, really?
Maybe. I mean, you're right in saying that this seems to be. I mean, I'm really torn because you say that this seems to be the way the TV is being broadcast now, and you are right. They kind of like with Netflix and Disney Plus, but then it makes me think. Well, actually, Netflix only released. Well, they released all bar 2 episodes of Stranger Things, so they're kind of getting. So they're kind of like now staggering their broadcast. Yeah, if you want to call it. Want of a better word. Disney Plus, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, they released the first 2 episodes and then they didn't release the next ones till consecutive every Wednesday. So it feels like actually we're going backwards again, and that streaming services are actually saying, no, we're going to pull in the reins here, because we're realizing that if we kind of throw them all out in one go, we might lose subscribers here, because that's always been Disney's ethos, isn't it? It's like, we'll pull you in for the free month trial, but because you probably joined because you want to watch this one certain program, you're going to have to pay for the second month because you're going to carry on watching it. And I just feel like the BBC, I don't know. It just feels like to me that couldn't the BBC just release each episode at 6 a.m. on the day? I felt like that would have been a bit better.
I mean, yeah, but then it's still, you still got people who are going to be watching it before anybody else, so it sort of still gives up people that the opportunity to talk about it online. And the thing is about a show that people tune into regularly, the the communication between the fans is half the fun in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Maybe the show doesn't necessarily see communication between fans as fun. We can understand that as well. But but it kind of keeps that alive. So, you know, and the thing is, what you also get online, I see this all the time, you know, when the show posts like a clip about what happened at the end of the episode, they'll get covered in comments saying, "Well, I haven't watched it yet. Why are you doing that?"
Yeah,
so you can't really please everybody, can you? So,
no, you can't. You can't please everyone all the time. That's quite right.
This is basically just an easy option for them because obviously the thing is as well, because it's getting moved to BBC Two anyway. There will be people that kind of go out of their routine. The thing is, the thing about watching a soap is it's very dangerous to muck around with people's routine with watching soaps. They'll just go, "Well, I won't watch it then. Screw you, I won't watch it then." And the fact that it's all going online is a very good way of sort of covering up any loss of viewers because they can just say, "Oh, well, but they're watching it online, so it's absolutely fine." So there is reasons for them doing it, and it makes sense for them to do it. But yeah, for us, it's sort of kind of like, "Oh, I'm going to miss the build-ups of the week." So
yeah,
but 8 weeks is a very, very long time.
This is exactly another point. So 8 weeks is it's a lot longer than they did it before. There's already kind of like rumors hovering around that there's the World Cup in December. We talked about this last week as well, about saying would they put
Christmas Day, yeah.
But then Coronation Street did it. Remember, Coronation Street did it last year. They released all their Christmas episodes at the top of the week. So the Christmas Day episode, their big episode, was already out. So people could watch it.
Times are changing, Alex. Times are changing.
Yeah, but I like sitting there with my mince pie, being depressed and watching people shout at each other around the Queen. I just all I have to do is look in my own lounge when my family have arrived, and then everything's good. Hey, so we did get a few comments, and I'm going to read some of them quickly out to you. So Daisy has said, "I don't like it. I don't have BBC iPlayer here." So from America. So there's going to be spoilers everywhere. I won't be able to avoid them unless you come off social media. And to be honest, I like the live tweets. We live tweet when we're kind of watching the show. Yeah. So we kind of like say sarcastic comments when we're watching the show and kind of like joining in with the fun with everyone else.
We are fans, honest.
We are. We love the show. We love the show.
As much as our social media sometimes might lead you to believe we don't. We do like the show.
We
honestly.
do.
We are fans.
But people outside the UK, obviously, unless you get a VPN, hint, if you get a VPN, you can then maybe get all the awards. You can then maybe watch iPlayer. You know, that's one way around it, but then that's a cost, and a lot of people. So again, it feels unfair that people who are unable to get the iPlayer who watch it. But then should BBC think about? Again, we've torn here. Netflix thinks about a global audience. Should the BBC be thinking about a global audience, or should they be thinking for a more domesticated audience with a soap because it's more tailored for a UK audience, perhaps?
Yeah.
I mean,
so you can't win. The moral of the story is you can't win. Essentially, so whichever you do, you're going to annoy somebody with this. So it's a shame.
Ryan has said, "I don't mind it for the summer. I prefer it live, though, with a Twitter feed where we watch along. You're just going to get people complaining, saying it's lots of spoilers because they haven't watched the episode yet, etc. And it gets very boring. I mean, that's I think that's what the crux of the matter is. But a lot of people also said there's woke flake. I love that name on Twitter. Has said just simply said binge. So and a lot of people said that they can't wait to binge on it. That's the thing. They really they love the idea of doing it. I feel like it's a 50-50 split. I feel like some people are kind of like very not old fashioned, that's an unfair term, but like prefer the tradition of watching it live. And a lot of people, the thing is with EastEnders is that they've not had the advantage of it only being on an iPlayer or streaming service. No. Prior to that, it was always on television. So it's difficult to kind of move on from there. But do you think this is a regular occurrence? Do you think this is going to go
it may well be that this is, at the very least, this may well be the new summer tradition that they just get put online when Wimbledon's on every year, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, it is. So it may well be that I just couldn't care less about sport. I really look at me. Do I look like I give a toss about sport? Honestly, but it is what it is, and Yeah, so let us know in the comment section below what you think of it, all. Dying to hear your thoughts, and we will love to reply to you. And you can do all of that by contacting us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly. You can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell and vote to get notifications about our spoiler videos and for Ben's roundup. And you can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, or any of your favourite podcast sites. You can email us at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. And in relation to the episodes going on iPlayer, nothing's changing for us. We had this discussion.
Yes,
we sort of adapted to it last week, to this last year. And frankly, we can't remember what we did. So we've decided that it's probably best we just stick with what we're doing now.
Yeah. We like the traditional approach.
We like the traditional approach. So yes, we will be back same time next week.
We certainly
Please
will.
vote. Until then.
BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote. Sorry, I crashed you again.
Yes. Right. Throw that link out all you like.
BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote. Put Walford Weekly in, click vote. That's all you have to do. Please remember to do it. And it's goodbye from him. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Vote.
Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote.
Have you voted yet? Vote. Right, so here we go. Next subject, then.
Next subject. Next subject, class.
Oh,
outtake.